back to the race for the White House this morning. Donald Trump continuing to criticize Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton, this time accusing her of, quote, playing the women's card as she prepares to unleash her husband on the campaign trail. Donald Trump spoke to our colleagues at Fox and Friends yesterday.
I think he is fair game because his presidency was really considered to be very troubled, to put it mildly, because of all of the things that she's talking to me about. I mean, she's mentioning sexism. I turned her exact words against her from that standpoint. And she's got to be careful. You know, it's got to be fair. And we all have to fight fairly. She's playing the woman's card, and it's like, give me a break. And women are more upset about it than anybody else, including most men.
Well, joining us now from Washington, D.C. is Republican strategist Ashley Pratte, and in studio with us here in New York, Ohio State Senator Capri Cafaro. All eyes, of course, on Ohio. But thanks to both of you for being here. And Capri, I want to start with you. I mean, obviously, Mr. Trump is doing what he always does, which is attack any which way that he can. How is that rhetoric playing out, though, in your state?
Well, you know, I think that a lot of people, frankly, are looking and they're thirsting for someone who just tells it like it is. And in that regard, even amongst Democrats, Mr. Trump and his blunt talk is resonating. I mean, it's not just about, you know, sound bites. It's also about, you know, what he's talking about in regards to national security, what he's talking about regarding trade in particular. And so, you know, believe it or not, he is resonating in the swing state of Ohio. And I know a lot of people aren't saying that, but they're also not on the ground.
Well, you happen to have somebody running from Ohio. His name's John Kasich.
That's
I mean,
true.
That's
whom I absolutely love as well.
Okay.
And I'm a Democrat.
Yeah, well,
so.
Ashley, I mean, again, you know, we're seeing these attacks, and this is a weekly thing from Donald Trump where he comes out and he says something, you think it's puts in his mouth, and then I'll be darned if it's not campaign gold. Did he go too far, though, attacking Hillary and saying that she's using women's issues or whatever he said?
Well, I mean, it's no secret that he has completely defied political physics, but at the same time, I think it's important for someone to take Hillary Clinton to task on these issues because she does come out and say that she's a feminist, she's shattering glass ceilings, but really, bringing her husband out on the campaign trail doesn't seem to be the best idea if she's really supposed to be the champion for women that she claims to be. I mean, if you look at his presidency, it is riddled with a lot of, let's put it nicely, mishaps when it comes to women. But I don't think in any way here, you know, Donald Trump is wrong for calling her out and playing the women card because she often does. I mean, she often comes out and says, I'm a woman, vote for me.
About President Bill Clinton. President Bill Clinton, frankly, is a more popular figure than Hillary Clinton herself. And so they're sending Bill Clinton out into Ohio constantly because they see him as the person that's bringing back the 1990s, a strong economy. They still, you know, he's still that charismatic figure. And so, frankly, you know, he's the big guns in a place like Ohio and across the country because he's more popular than she is.
But actually, the question, though, is does that make her vulnerable? I mean, he didn't exactly help her win in 2008. We got President Barack Obama, not President Hillary Clinton.
Well, I don't think that he's an asset at all to her on the campaign trail, and she's got a failing campaign. But I will also point out on the flip side, I'm not a huge Donald Trump fan, and he's also at an unfavorability with women at 68%. So I think it's important to note here that neither of them really have the record that they should with women, and Clinton is playing the gender card most of the time. You see her come out on the debate stage, and she frequently says more things like, I'm a woman, I know what I'm going through, I'm a grandmother.
Can I ask you a question about independent voters in Ohio?
Absolutely.
Though? I saw something interesting over the weekend. Bernie Sanders is making a play.
I'm so glad you brought this up.
For Trump voters.
Yes.
Bernie Sanders is trying to get the independents in New Hampshire. And I'm curious how this is playing in Ohio, because I think a lot of the Trump support is coming from independents. It's interesting that Bernie Sanders is speaking to the middle class really being hit in America.
That's right.
Will that work for Bernie Sanders?
I think that it certainly gives him an opening. I mean, you take a look at the people that I think both, you know, the quote Trump voter, which is largely a, you know, white, non-college educated voter, and Bernie Sanders is trying directly to appeal to them as someone who, you know, is addressing, you know, the wage gap and trade and some of these other issues. So he's saying, well, you know, Donald Trump is talking the talk. me, Bernie Sanders, I can walk the walk. And I think with union voters in particular, it is something that may work.
But don't you think Hillary Clinton would not be bringing up Bill Clinton if the campaign was not secretly worried about Bernie Sanders? What no one's talking about in the media, everyone's talking about Trump, Cheryl. No one's actually talking about how well Bernie Sanders is still polling.
And let me tell you something. Iowa is one of these places that continues to surprise. It surprised in 2008 with Barack Obama, and you never know, Bernie Sanders could pull it out. It's all down to turnout.
I think it's a sign of weakness that she's bringing out Bill Clinton.
Let's bring in Ashley, though, guys.
100%.
I want to bring in Ashley. Hold on, I want to bring in. To be outnumbered.
Welcome to the morning. Ashley, though, I do want to give you last word, though, as a GOP strategist. I mean, I don't know, but I've never seen anything like this going into a campaign cycle like I've seen with the Republican Party. I mean, where do we go, and how would you advise the candidates to deal with what is the behemoth that is Hillary Clinton right now?
Well, that's the issue, and I think we've had, fun talking about Donald Trump every morning, every night, every lunch hour, but at the same time, we have to realize who the real person we're going up against here is. It is Hillary Clinton. And if it ends up being Donald Trump that's the nominee, we have to keep the pressure on her. So the fact that he did come out and say this, that's great. I will point out one thing. I spent my Christmas break in New Hampshire. I'm a New Hampshire native, first in the nation state, and I saw more Bernie Sanders signs than I did Hillary Clinton. And I saw more Trump signs than I did for any other candidate. So I think that tells you the ground game there that's going on. Trump has been known to not really have a ground game, but at the same time, if yard signs tell the story, that's what it looks like in New Hampshire right now.
It's going to be fascinating. Can't wait for this to all get going. Ashley, Pratte, Capri, Cafaro, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
And Anthony.